Stop there. Off your shoulders, back into your hands. Off your shoulders, sir. Yeah, I'll do it. If you want to go and take a seat. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Oh, it is sensitive. Right, hello. Oh, yeah, sit down, please. Sit down, thanks. We'll go with this. Okay. Right, thanks everyone for coming. This is the funeral service for John George Handley, 1947 to 2024. Thanks all for coming. Very few people ever have to write a funeral. It's not something that sort of I've ever done before. And obviously it's very difficult to pick the right words, but fortunately when I went through John's songs, it was obvious that the all the service and the prayers and hymns and everything had already been written, and all I've got to really sort of do is press the play button. And so there'll be about sort of 20 minutes of me just talking and just interspersed with his songs. Can you all hear me all right? Is that okay? Right, great. Okay, yeah. So please, it would help if you could, if everyone can see a copy of the John Handley songbook. I don't know if there's a spare copy here if someone wants one. But try to, if maybe, if everyone can sort of see one, that would help. The songs are in alphabetical order, so if I say, oh, now I'm going to play this song, that song, you can find where it is in the book. So we'll be referring to the songbook throughout, and so we can sit down throughout. There won't be any sort of standing up or hymns. So with the book, feel free to read along. Don't sing along. No singing, Nick or Pete. Okay, no singing. And the songs are generally listed alphabetically. The pictures in the book are chronological. And all of the words in the book have been lifted verbatim from his website. So I haven't changed at all his idiosyncratic way of writing or anything like that. So the very first song I'll sing, I won't sing, is One Size Fits All. And let's see if we can hear it. Right. Does it work? Thank you. Thank you, Johnny. Hold on. No. Right.
For a t-shirt one day, as I looked down the rails, an assistant did say, well, here's a nice t-shirt. I said, it looks small. He said, don't be silly, it's one size fits all. When I arrived home, it was peaceful that day, so I turned on the TV to watch a short play. Was it the Labour or the Tories in a large conference hall? And they were trying to pass laws where it was one size fits all. On holy days we always pray without doubt, pitying poor unbelievers left out. Then the priest will forgive them, cause it's God's holy rule. And when you've got religion, it's just one size fits all. We smash things together until they're very small. Then we analyse them backwards to see where they fall. Then we send probes to Mars and the scientists call for a unified theory where one size fits all. I've got an idea and I think it's quite cool. For the moment imagine there's no golden rule, and that everyone's right and we know nothing at all, and that there's more than one truth, one size doesn't fit all. And who says you can't love two people at once? Love isn't like gas that runs out at the pumps, and the essence of being has no boundary wall, and the universe lives in the soul of us all.
Okay, is that loud enough there? I don't need to turn it for next time, right? Yeah. Okay, right, so I'll begin with some housekeeping. I'm going to be referring to the deceased throughout as John rather than Dad, because I want this to be about sort of him and you, and I'll confine myself to a few personal thoughts at the end. This service will last for about 40 minutes. There'll be about 20 minutes of talking with me interspersed with his songs. Then there'll be a wake at the Star Pub, which is 158 Plumstead Common Road. You're all welcome to come, and if anyone has any transport problems getting there, just let us know. We'll organise cabs or something like that. Let me see. And at the wake, it will be time for me to shut up and listen to your stories. Everyone's welcome there to maybe tell their favourite John Handley anecdote, of which there are many, and to see who's got the craziest one, and there'll be some competition there. Or if you want, we'll just informally talk. After this, when we go to the wake, I'll just leave that to everyone else to decide how they want to go through it and how they want to organise it, or we can just drink and talk. I don't mind. So let's see. If anything happens to the equipment, if there's an equipment breakdown, I'll just do the talking, my boring talking bit of the thing, and then we'll play the songs at the pub. But it looks like it's all going to hold together throughout the service. Okay, so the next song I'm going to sing is the first. I'm not going to sing. The next song I'm going to play, I keep scaring you with this awful prospect of me singing. So I'm going to play the first 3 minutes of the Ballad of John. Because this is about his childhood. Right?
Removing handwrites and having written moves on. This is an autobiography in the shape of a song. His mum never sees in a bottle. I'm sending through time, from the past to the future, hoping someone will find. I was born in South London after the Second World War. The youngest of three, Ma had lost 4 kids before, but 2 sisters survived with no father at home. As I played in the gutters and lived in the slum. As a child I recall I was left all alone for 3 days and nights. No TV and no phone, no food in the cupboard, neglected and cold. I was lonely and scared, only 7 years old. My oldest sister got married to a fella named Ray. She had a new baby, one on the way. But one day as a builder, he fell off the scaffold. When he died, my sister was pregnant and 19 years old. So I took the feeling we were as poor as church mouse, till my sister got the insurance from the death of her spouse. So we moved up to Nunhead to Telegraph Hill. There was a park and some trees, I remember it still. My sister remarried, then one day they say, we're all emigrating, you can go or you can stay. stand up through the air. They say if you can remember it, you weren't really there. But there was no peace or love for me, no friends I could meet. I turned into a tramp and I lived on the street. So don't ask.
Okay, so I'm just after that I'll just play the first 3 minutes of that one because then because that's about his childhood really. And so so John was one of twins. His twin sister didn't survive birth, and so John was born very premature and feet first, and that will be sort of important as we go on because he was born very premature and feet first, and this is something we see through the whole of his life. He would, for the rest of his life, he went through it sort of the way he was born. He would rush into things and do them the other way round to everyone else. And so early on, he would wear girls' clothes because that's what was handed down from his elder sisters. And he was basically a street urchin. He would use coat hangers to break into the cinema, the Elephant and Castle cinema, where we'd watch Charlie Chaplin films. And his mother would keep a belt on a nail on the door. And when he saw her reach for the belt, he would hide under the table because it was harder for her to sort of whip him there because he would get the belt as to hit him. So he asked his mum what a poet was, and she explained it was someone that didn't do any work. And in his teens, his family moved to Australia, and he stayed on. He said, "Oh, they've got no culture." So here's a sort of like a street urchin that can't read or write. And he says, "Oh, Australians have no culture," he said. And so that decision he made as an illiterate teenager is why we're all here today. I'm going to now play I Concentrate on You. This is a song that he played at his sister Jackie's funeral, so it's important to him. And it was a song that he played at quite sort of at the very last gig that he ever played in Brighton. So.
When trouble is near and nobody's here, and the sky turns away from you, when the sun's sinking slow and the clouds start to blow, I concentrate on where the land meets the sky, where the blossoms will fly, where the snow-covered mountains look blue, where the wind sings the songs of the days that I have known. Then I concentrate on you. It may be nothing but when life comes closing. I look inside myself and I can see
So his family moved to Australia, and he walked to Ramsgate, sleeping in phone boxes on the way. So why Ramsgate? He could have gone to Hastings or Margate or any other town. Well, there's a clue in the photo albums. When I looked through his old family photo albums, there were 2 postcards sent from Ramsgate from William Morrison, his father, and so it gives us an image. So it gives us a very sort of sad image of a young man. Okay. So I'm going to get through this, don't I? So it gives us a very sad image of a young man, and his family were in Australia and didn't have friends. I started off well. So anyway, it presents us with a very sad image of this sort of a young man with no job or qualifications or money, sleeping in phone boxes, and he was living off the food that people would leave on the beach, and sleeping in phone boxes, and so he was like a sort of and you think, well, he's wandering around. There's this 18-year-old bloke wandering around Ramsgate, maybe hoping to bump into his dad. So the question then is, how did he turn it around? So he would go on to build several houses, and he'd go on to write a very interesting body of songs, and he would become like the go-to person if you needed help. If there was anything, he would be there. He'd often say that no one was worse off for having known him, and he'd made everyone that came into contact with him, he'd made them better off. And he became like the go-to person if you needed help with something. And apart from that, he went on to provide very sort of generously for his surviving family. So this is quite, it's hard to reconcile these 2 different John Handleys. You think, well, how did he go from the one to the other? How did he go from being this vagabond to helping all of us? So, well, how did he do it? Well, work. Nothing works like work works. But it wasn't just work. There was a bit of luck. He married up. It's hard to imagine him marrying down, but he married up. And in 1968, he married Rosaline Harrison, and I was born. And for the rest of his life after that, he lived in South London. I've actually done the service so that all the saddest songs are this bit, and so we've got the happier ones at the end. So it means when I walk out, I'm not crying as I leave. So this is the last very difficult song that we're going to hear, Searching. Oh, it's called Searching.
Lost and alone all night, all night through. Panic awaits me in the light, in my tried so hard, but I failed you. I apologize to you. If I could turn the clock back to that day when we were together, how did it all crumble away? Empty and cold as the day is long. I've got my curtains drawn in my flat. Friends come around, they don't understand, and they say offhand, how can you part from that? I say I'm searching for redemption. Truth runs through my veins. I say I'm searching for freedom. All my searching is in vain. All my searching is in vain.
Okay, so well, as you'd expect from someone born feet first and very premature, John preferred action to deliberation. And the way he was born was how he went through life. He'd rush into things and do them the opposite way round to everyone else. Because if he acted, you might do some good, but if you pontificated, there was no chance of doing any good. So for John, to act, to do something, was the same thing as to do good. And so often at funerals, the congregation are asked to remember everything that's good, the smile, the happy face, the happy times and stuff. But we've got to remember with John that his incredible drive to get things done was a two-edged sword that yielded disasters and victories in equal measure. And I'll never forget him saying that everything he touches falls apart. And so yes, remember the happy times, but even if you remember the arguments, that's better than forgetting. Okay, he was very dyslexic, and it was a constant struggle for him to think clearly. And he inherited from his mother a healthy scorn for intellectuals. In his 20s, he started reading a book by Kafka, and only just to cast it aside, saying, why bother reading the book when you can live the life? And so the next song is the last sad song, I think. It's I Remember You, and I'll tell you a bit about it afterwards.
I remember you from all those years ago. I remember you from your younger days. Thunder and lightning was in your life. Your mind was as sharp as a whetted knife. I remember you in your wild days. You couldn't sit still for minutes. Open and free, you terrified me. And I have to admit, I remember you when the rain came down like
Okay, so now I want to just make a few observations about John, but as an artist. This isn't often done really, but I want to just look at him completely without any personal stuff, but just look at how he went about his art of songwriting. So when I heard that he was ill, I came back from Scotland and I stayed with him, and I visited him in hospital, and I stayed round his flat that night, and a bit weird sort of sleeping around your dad's flat, but I walked in and there was a music stand in the middle of the room. And on the music stand was a book of sheet music by George Gershwin. And so then I go to the toilet, and in the toilet there's another book of sheet music by Cole Porter. And so this is very unusual. It's not what you'd expect from a plasterer who just wanted to be like Sonny Boy Williamson or Jesse Fuller. And so I just want to say a bit about his music. So for a start, he'd use very unconventional chords that you wouldn't really expect from a folk club. So there'll be some people here that are good guitarists and musicians, and when you look through the songbook, you'll see that he's using ninth chords, augmented chords, and he's not imposing a master plan of chords. They change from verse to verse, so it's almost like complete freeform. It sounds normal when you listen to it, but there's a variation in the chords from verse to verse. And another thing that he got about music, he said comedy songs aren't funny. And so he understood that if you want to make people smile, you need wits rather than jokes and punchlines. And that it shows that he's thinking beyond the immediate on songs. Next, I once said, I wish my songs were more hooky. And he said, no, choruses are the problem. He said, choruses slow the song down. And so this partly explains why he was very sort of commercially unsuccessful as a musician, because the dominant trend of music now is repetition, and there's virtually no repetition in his songs. Every line is unique. There's very little repetition in what he does. So the person born feet first completely turns his back on all the dominant trend within music today. And again, with his creative period, if you look at most musicians, they have a couple of ideas when they're in their 20s, and then they become technically better, they become more proficient at playing and stuff like that. Well, John did it the other way around. He learned some bar chords, rudimentary bar chords in his late 20s, never got any better at the guitar. I never heard him play a guitar solo because he wasn't interested in that. He learned bar chords so he could write songs, and that was it. And most people write their great songs in their 20s, but John wrote his best songs in his 50s and 60s. So again, he's doing everything the complete opposite way around how it should be done. Let's see. He wasn't scared to deal with uncomfortable, controversial themes. We all know we've all been at the receiving end of some John Handley brutal honesty. Regarding his political songs, I've decided not to play any today, not because they're no good, because there are some great political songs that he wrote, but I thought like funerals are horrible enough without people feeling they're getting a political lecture in on the bargain. So so all the political songs, they're all on Bandcamp. If you ever want to listen to them, they're all there in the public domain. Let's see. There's a few golden lyrics that I want to just mention, though, that we won't be hearing. From his song Jerusalem, we weren't allowed to just discuss a fairer share of jobs for us, and the way the syllables flow, it's like water, it's effortless. And it shows a real classic John Handley trick you'll see again and again in his songwriting. He'll keep the really powerful word for the last word in the phrase. So when you hear these songs, often it's the very last word of the line that really packs the force. And then his song about... he wrote a song called Bullshit, which is about how much he hates the James O'Brien show on LBC. And he says, James O'Brien never will get it. I see two short planks and I think of him. And so we can say it's wrong to make personal attacks in songs, but we can't deny that the wit that's there. And all these songs show a sort of a clearing away of over-intellectualised dross, where we're welcome to disagree with his politics, and we can say it's rude or offensive, but what we can't say is that it's second-rate. And when lots of sort of geniuses over-elaborated. He would produce very rough-hewn, unforgettable phrases. And apparently sometimes when he'd play his political songs, people would sort of heckle and shout rubbish. And, well, it's always nice to get a critique from the intellectuals, and we look forward to their great work showing up eventually. I said to him, it must have taken a lot of courage to play those songs. He said, no, it just takes 2 pints of lager. And when he said that, I didn't believe him at all. And another time I didn't believe him was when he said the song I Remember You that we just played. I kept asking him, who's it about? And eventually he said it was about the dogs, but I don't believe him. I think it could have been about his old friend Mickey Quarrington, or it could have been about me, or it could have been about a woman. We'll never know. This is the prerogative of the artist to be coy about their sources, and now we'll never know. And so let's see. And there's lots of other interesting details in his songs. So there's another thing that sounds like fiction, but it's actually true. His song, "This Is Where the Romance Ends," the next line is, "I think I might as well go and jump in the Thames." And it actually happened. At least twice there were people struggling in the Thames, and he dived in and saved them. He was a very good swimmer when he was young. And so there were at least 2 times when he actually really did dive into the Thames. And there's other lyrics, like the last 4 lines of Rose-Tinted Glasses. They're far too rude for me to read out now, but they're a lyrical delight. Now, sort of, everyone's going to be leafing into the last 4 lines of Rose-Tinted Glasses. But it seemed it was never time to listen to John Handley. When we think of the quality of his work, it's astonishing how rarely he got offered gigs. So if ever you asked him to play some songs, thank you very much. That would have meant a lot to him. And all the people that sort of jeered and interrupted, I'll say what I think of them at the wake, but not now. Next song. Right, okay. The songs are less painful from now on, I hope. Who knows? Right. Gates of Gold.
Take
Oh, stop. Right, okay. Once is enough right now for that song. Now a bit about his ailment, cancer. Please do get yourselves checked. Be a hypochondriac. 5 months ago, me and John were just sitting in Wetherspoons, and now he's gone. So he said to me that his mistake was that he soldiered on a lot through the pain. And we all remember John to be as tough as old boots, and there was no reason why he shouldn't have carried on for another 15 years. But what we see, it's not a time for anger, but I would just say that the passing of John shows humanity at its best and worst. And there were certain professionals who talked a good service and gave us lots of leaflets, and they were very ingenious in their explanations about why they weren't actually going to do anything. And they would say, well, that's the way the system works. But then, by contrast to that, there are the wonderful neighbours. They're the wonderful friends and neighbours like Kate and Maria and Murray and Pete and Rosaline. I've got their names: Vicky, Don, Lynn, Nick, and Mary, and many others that just sort of the people who simply turned up and said, well, how can I help? And so these people represent the best. And thank you for making a real difference when it really mattered. And if any good has come of this, it's that it's rekindled friendships that had seemed lost, and that it's created a bond between the people left behind. Anecdotes. Right, there are so many John Handley anecdotes. I'll leave them for you, mostly at the wake. I could do a whole service of just anecdotes. Anecdotes, but I'm just going to confine myself to one anecdote. And here I've written down dustpan and brush. Well, when John's mum died, she was cremated, and so Dad and Pete went up to Ox's Woods and scattered the ashes around on this place where Violet would walk the dog. And Dad went back and said to Jackie, he said, I'll put the ashes around Ox's Woods at this place. And Jackie said, that's good, that's very nice. And then there was a sort of silence, and then Jackie said, yeah, but it would be nice to have some of the ashes for the back garden in Crescent Road. It would be nice. It's a shame that you put all of the ashes there. And so that night, John and Peter Skinley jumped over the fence of Ox's Woods, and they had with them a dustpan and brush. I'm going to leave that story there. You can just imagine the end. Next, right. Sometimes people say you only die twice, once when your body dies and once when you're forgotten. Well, by that measure, we've got some way to go, because on his birthday, the 3rd of September every year, we're going to play his songs and remember him. He always said he hoped his songs would be discovered, and so now we no longer have the reality of the man. We've got to make do with our memories of him, and that's difficult because memories can be unreliable, and because someone like John constantly surprised us. There were lots of times when the conversation I had with him wasn't at all the conversation I expected, and so people and our memories of them never quite match up, which is why loss is so painful. Real death is forgetting. But if ever you remember him, thank you. Right, summary. Right, so they're right. There was no human being worse suited to the modern world than John Handley. In the modern world, it's the detail people that prosper, the people that are good with systems, the rule readers, the form fillers, the inoffensive, the corridor diplomats, and John was none of those things. He would not lead or be led. He favoured candour to diplomacy. He favoured action over deliberation, wit over technicality, and the glory of the human spirit over compliance. And he reminds us that simplicity can be profound, whilst intellectuals can be silly and wrong. Despite his lack of formal education, everything he said was profound, and he was very brave. John refused to live in fear, especially fear of speaking his mind, and he would say what he considered to be the truth, whatever the consequences. And often what he considered to be the truth wasn't actually the truth, but that was part of the problem. But then maybe I'm wrong and it was. Right, so there were no famous last words, there was no deathbed conversion, there was no settling of scores, There were no terrible secrets revealed. He was clear that he'd done everything he wanted to do. He said everything he wanted to say, that he regretted nothing and that he wouldn't miss anything. And all our lives are better for having known him, and all our lives would have been worse if there'd never been a John Handley. And if any good can come of this, it must be the reminder to us that death is real and we must do the best we can with our limited time. On a personal note, the good far outweighed the bad. Thousands of people can teach cleverness, but for the rest of my life, when I'm prevaricating, the voice will say, get on with it, get on with it, get on with it. I'm very proud he was my father, and when my children are just reaching for the tissue here, I feel it come. Right. When my children bury me, I'm going to make sure they're as proud of me as I am of him. He was a friend, and with all friendships there were arguments, and sometimes we didn't get on, sometimes we didn't like one another, but we always loved one another. And I miss my friend. I miss my friend every day. So now it's too late. I'd love to see him again. So this is called "Sometimes I Dream." This song, and I've got on the plaque that we're going to put in his back garden for his ashes, it says "Sometimes I Dream." It says John Handley, builder, musician, lived here. Sometimes I dream, and we're going to do that when we get the plaque and when we get the ashes in a few weeks' time. I'll let everyone know. But right, yeah. So now it's too late. I'd give anything to see the wild eyes once more. Right.
I'm tired of renting a room in the town. Wish I could move to the country and settle down. But there's no money in the pot. The more I work, the less I got. If I was a millionaire, we could buy a house somewhere and live the simple life together. The world would not intrude on our secret rendezvous. I spend my days just loving you. It's just a dream I like to ponder. When everything is said and hard, the years pass by the door. We stay like we were before. It's just a dream. Sometimes I dream. Let's run away and start all over again. Let's not tell Facebook or phone any friends. Let's tell the banks to just get lost. Let's stop the world and just get off. If I was a millionaire, we could buy a house somewhere and live the simple life together. The world would not intrude on our secret
Well, that's great. So I'm going to give the last word to the dogs because we've got 10 minutes left. So right, let's face it, he loved the dogs as much as any of us, and so why did he never remarry? Well, in a sense, he did because he was wedded to the dogs, and maybe dogs represented to him a simple, uncompromised, uncomplicated love that he could never get from people or society. And his dogs were just like him. They never do as they're told. So this is the last song, and I don't know what to do afterwards. So.
There are many, many doggies in the whole wide world, different shapes and sizes. They will piddle up the lamppost at the corner of the street whilst doing exercises. With an innocent expression and a wagging of their tail, they're trying to shag your leg. And they'll simply go before you talking to a girl that you're trying to get in bed. If I ever get the feeling that I'm going to be attacked or I'm worried that somebody will accost me, I look down for my protection, he is ready to react as he piddles round the bottom of an oak tree. And an oak tree that's in hide behind a bigger coward you won't find. The only thing he cares about is shagging all the time, just like his own heart. Sometimes that's fine, we just stop and sit. I take a little bed along and fill it up with shit. I've had him since he was a pup, soon after he was born. And one thing I can tell you is he's always got the horn. Someday morning we just stroll along where the babbling river flows. I like the summer when the days are long, that if he can't eat or shag it, he don't want to know. If somebody's got a picnic where my doggy is a knave, put it where it's low enough for him to live. The only thing to be remembered if you want your picnic safe is never trust a doggy that's in trip again. The journey from your plate, your sandwich as you make, you shouldn't undertake too slow. It may be laying in the sun, but like a bullet from a gun, it's sandwich death row. And when it's time to say goodbye, and he goes to that kennel in the sky, I will sit alone and cry, because he was my doggy.
I don't know. What do I do now? I'm done. I didn't really plan out what was going to happen next. Does someone want to press this curtain close button? I hate it when these electric curtains start buzzing and stuff. But I better start packing up all my stuff. But thanks for coming, and there'll never be another John Handley. And I think we're sort of done. So okay. But so really, thanks everyone for coming. That's great. I really appreciate it. And I see you at the Star Pub, and there's a huge problem in that the Star Pub don't serve alcohol until 12 o'clock, so we've got 1.5 hours of agony. I'll see you all at the Star Pub then, and I haven't ordered enough food, but they do the pizzas and stuff. Oh, I should just shut up. Does anyone else want to say anything?
So, if I can ask everyone to please follow me out the chapel when you're running the okay.
Well done.
You were there with the tissues again. You got the tissues thing. Thanks. Very careful. Oh, we didn't look at it.
So if I can ask him on start making your way out, I'll for the next service.
You really celebrate. You really
I see that the star anyway. What's your name? Danny. I think that it was stuff out before the next funeral. Okay. Danny, speak at the star. Speak at the star.